Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to fall 2022. Can you believe that we're into fall? Actually, the weather kind of felt a little bit like fall earlier this week. I'm looking forward to more of that fall weather and the end of maybe the Texas heat. So welcome to all of you that are joining us live for this webinar, and for those of you that will watch it later off of the YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Monica Powell. I'm the Senior Associate Dean and Graduate Dean here in the Jindal School. And I have a couple of guests with me today, and I'll introduce them. We have Angela Howard, who is the Assistant Director for Graduate Advising on the second floor. You know who she is, Angela with a big, beautiful smile. And then we're so delighted to have Sonu with us. Sonu is one of our graduate members of the Graduate Dean's Council, who I think has just had a great experience here. And so I'll bring Angela and Sonu in. But of course, none of this magic happens without the amazing Norma, who you also see on the screen. She's my Senior Academic Project Manager, and Monica can't do anything without Norma. So welcome to our September Chat with the Grad Dean. You know, for students who have known me very long, and I have been in this industry a very long time, you know, I can't do any kind of chat with a graduate dean without pontificating about something. So I always want to thank students who indulge me in listening to some of my pontifications about life lessons or advice. And so I'm going to share some advice with all of you today and a couple of quotes that I really want all of you to think about. When you think about the average age of a master's student here at the Jindal School of Management, you guys are about 25 average age, but the age range is really huge. It goes from 23 on the bottom side of the master's program up to, I mean, we have some master's students who are 60 who are going through one of our master's programs. Our MBA students tend to average age a little higher than that. They're about 29 is the average age. But, you know, you're talking about a whole lot of people that are going through this collective experience together to gain all of this wonderful knowledge in all of our courses so that you guys can go out and advance your life, right? That's why you came to the Jindal School of Management. Well, I'm struck now that while I'm a big, huge advocate of getting graduate degrees, master's, specialty degrees, and MBAs, because I think it really has an enormously positive impact on your life, your career. I also want to remind students of the importance of something that you don't get inside of a book. And that element is wisdom. You know, students come and chat with me all the time, and I think part of the reason that they do that is they're seeking understanding from my own experiences, what in young people terms you guys called old people wisdom. But there's a lot of value in old people wisdom. And, you know, I think right now, you know, the world is experiencing the loss of Queen Elizabeth, who reigned for 70 years as a monarch, the longest serving and probably monarch in the history of the world. And, you know, if I could have an audience with Queen Elizabeth, I would want to ask her 8 zillion questions just from her own life experience that would generate profound wisdom. You know, as people get older, have you ever noticed how your grandparents and your old aunt and uncles and that old neighbor next door to your grandmother, how as people get older, they tend to talk a little bit less? Because I think older people listen more acutely, and I think they gather in experience and knowledge that they then put on top of their careers. They put it on top of their life experiences. And that is really powerful. And I wish I could go and have a great audience with the Queen and ask her 8 zillion questions. I wish I could have another audience with my father, who's been gone a decade, and ask him so many questions that I just didn't take time to ask him when he was alive. And so I want to inspire all of you who are watching today to not just be solely focused on getting all this knowledge from a tool or from a technology or from a book, and put great importance and great value on talking to people that are older and wiser than you are. Because every time I take the time to talk to a really old person. I know you're all thinking, well, Monica, you're really old, because from your vantage point, I probably am old. But I love sitting down with an older individual and just hearing their stories. I came across this quote last night that I really want to share with everybody. It's from Albert Einstein. And of course, everybody knows who Albert Einstein is. But he said, wisdom is not a product of schooling, but of the lifelong attempt to acquire it. So I think that's a really profound quote, in the sense that you are acquiring wisdom every single day. You're acquiring wisdom when you watch that person in the supermarket who isn't handling a situation very well, and you're learning from them that's not the way that you should handle that situation. You are learning from other people when you aren't even engaged in whatever it is that they're doing. And if you aren't capitalizing on that knowledge from a potential mentor in your life, you're missing out. You know, I've been mentoring a handful of people for, gosh, nearly 30 years, kids who were interns way back in the 90s. I've been mentoring them and watching them take the advice, the gentle advice that I give them, and helping prevent them from making maybe the same mistake that I made. So I want all of you to think and concentrate on what you're getting in classes, but also think and concentrate how you can benefit from learning from people that are a whole heck of a lot older than you. I think young people, you're so busy living your life, you know, everything's rush, everything is get it done, acquire it, get that degree, get that job, you know, find your life partner, get married, acquire a dog, buy a house. Slow that puppy down and stop and really value the people that have lived before you and really cherish them, because there'll be a day when they aren't in your life and you'll wish that you had. I guess to maybe stop pontificating so much, I'll leave you with another quote that I came across that I think is really something that I thought about for myself. And I don't know who Carl Pilmer is. I need to put that in Wikipedia, find out why his quote is important. But he said, it's important for older people to record their own thoughts and memories, but it is really critical for younger people to ask them, and not just for stories, but for guidance and practical knowledge. So I have a responsibility to write those memories down, and I have a responsibility to share my mistakes and successes with all of you, but you have a responsibility in asking for them. So if there's one thing that any of you do in the next week or 10 days, think about who that person is you can reach out to, that you can just listen to them, just ask them those questions, because there's going to be a time in your life where I wish I'd had asked more of those questions. So there's the Grad Dean pontification for fall, September 2022. I want to launch in to some other things that are going on in the school that I want you guys to think about. And you know me, I'm going to tell you that what you learn in class is essential in terms of how you get internships and potentially that job when you leave the school. But it's not just about what happens in the classroom. We have 70 plus student organizations that you can get involved in, where you have opportunities to find mentors, where you have opportunities to join case competitions, where you have opportunities to watch alumni talk about what it's like to work at this company versus that company versus that company. And if you haven't thought about how you're going to engage outside of the classroom, don't make the mistake that a lot of students say, oh, let me get the schooling down, let me figure it all out, and I'll worry about that later. Worry about that later comes quick. So take time to go to our student organization's website on the Jendal page, and Norma can put that in the chat. Scroll down and look at what these student organizations are doing and how you might get engaged with them and how you might complement what you're doing in the classroom. The next thing that I would tell you is what I tell students all the time is begin with the end in mind. You know, you should be, if this is your first semester, you should be thinking about what it is that you want to do. And you should already be looking at job descriptions and seeing what kind of classes and technical skills you need, and then figuring out how to get to those. If you are later, like this is your second semester or your third semester, or maybe even your fourth semester, you're a little bit behind. you know, you've got to start planning for what happens at the end of your graduate degree, and you need to start that process as early as you can. So that brings me to Angela. Angela, students often come to the advising office because they want to understand more about, you know, elective courses, and they believe that the advising office is going to be able to tell them how this class is better than this class. So can you share with the students the best way to get course information, and then tying that to also the career piece?
Yes. Thank you, Dean Powell. So the best way to talk or to get this information is to talk to your program. The advising office, I like to say that we are truly more degree management. We make sure that you are in the correct classes for the degree that your program has deemed, or the classes that your program have deemed to be important for you, and that these classes will get you to graduation. But we cannot tell you if SAP is better for you than something else, if you're in the ITM degree or something like that, because we're not experts when it comes to the content of the classes. So I would say always reach out to your program directors and their support staff for those types of questions, because they can really point you in the right direction. For instance, the program directors have worked in the industry most of the time, not just academia. So if they know what you should be doing for a specific internship, they're the people to talk to about your electives. For career, your program can also assist you with that because they are part of that area. But you can also go to the Career Management Center in the JSOM second floor of the new JSOM 2 building to talk to them about some of the career options that you may have. But I would always say start with your program and their support staff. And they're not in the advising office, so people come to us to talk to their program director. The program directors and support staff are all over JSOM, so the best thing to do is to first look at the website and just search for their name. Under the staff area, you'll find their room number, or if you go to your program page, they also have their actual office number. You can make a phone call with the information there. You can contact them via email to set up an appointment, because they probably will need an appointment because they are teaching, or you can drop by if they have office hours. So I would just say first start with the JSOM website at your program page under contact, look for your program director or the support staff, and then really meet with them. This is a good time now because registration has ended. So now you can start talking about what you think you may want to take throughout your degree.
Oh, Angela, that's a perfect answer. And don't forget alumni. You know, there's lots of alumni that you can reach out to through the Jindal Connect platform or on LinkedIn. And if they're working in a field where you think you want to work, they can also be great assets as well. I think students get confused, and we don't make it easy. We help them get confused by putting the label advising on the advising office, which means go to the advising office for all types of advising. Again, they can help you with degree management, but if it's around career, go to career. If it's around courses, go to your program director, because, you know, if it's a question about your bill, go to the bursar's office. If it's a question about financial aid, do that. Now, remember, we do have the JSOM question desk, but if you ask a very specific question to the JSOM question desk, they aren't going to be able to answer that. So think again about the type of question. They can answer a general question about, you know, who do I go to or where do I go to seek information, but they aren't going to be able to necessarily answer a specific type of question. So Sonu, I know that you just completed an internship, and I heard it was a really good experience for you. Can you talk a little bit about how you got that internship and what you took away from it? And then also, since you're engaged with the school beyond just being in the classroom, can you talk a little bit about how your outside of the classroom experience has really enhanced your journey?
Sure. Thank you, Dean. Hello, everyone. I am Sonu. I am pursuing my graduate degree here in ITM. So speaking about summer internship, it is an opportunity where you really get an exposure of the US industry and also an opportunity to hone your skills. Speaking of my internship experience, I had the opportunity to be a scrum master in a mortgage industry, speaking that I have interest in product management. So a few tips and tricks that I would let you guys know about internship would be: number one, to know your interest area. Like, I know my interest area lies in product management. Before starting your degree program, be very clear about your, like Dean said, think about the end. Think about what you are getting from this degree, what you want to become. That will really help you filter out jobs, because there are a lot of positions, a lot of jobs, and at times I feel you'll be overwhelmed and just be confused of what you actually want to be. So just be clear in mind, think about the end, be sure that what do you want from the degree program. Another thing is the professional development class. It really helped me a lot to build connections and really understand the format of resume, understand how the industry wants you as an individual. So this class is an opportunity wherein you understand how you build your profile. So I would suggest you strongly to be very active in this class and take it take it very seriously. So this class is very important. Number two, like Angela said, understand your program and also talk with your support staff from your degree program and really understand and build connections with them as well. And like Dean said, not only don't be restricted only to your classroom environment, also be active in student organizations. I'm a part of Dean Council and also part of different student organizations. Speaking about the benefits of being in student organizations is that you get to meet new people, you get to build connections, and I cannot emphasize more in it that if you have good connections, good networking skills, and good network of people, you never know when they are to help to you. So I would say best luck to everyone, and just be out there and take it slow. Don't take it very fast. Like Dean said, just take it slow and just be yourself.
Yeah, Sonu, I think you said that so well. Thank you to both you and Angela for those comments. I think that was really great advice. I think if I were to have, and I think the word criticism is a bit harsh, but if I were to criticize the younger generation, I think there's this tendency to just get so much in a rush that you prioritize maybe things slightly inaccurately. I think that I think there are some students who don't take the professional development class as seriously as they should. If you do that class correctly, and yeah, it's a pass-fail class. So students say, okay, well, what is the minimum thing that I can do to get that pass versus that fail? When you really ought to be looking at that class is really totally absorbing what is being told in that class, because that's not just professional development for this moment to get an internship. That's professional development for a lifetime, because you're going to be updating your resume forever. You're going to be writing cover letters. You're going to be needing to do networking. You're going to need to build that portfolio of people that are going to be your influencers and champions. And that's a lifetime of professional development, not just a just-in-time kind of thing. So I think I would tell students to kind of slow down. Graduate school is really, this sounds kind of foreboding to say this, but graduate school is the last real opportunity that you have as adults, because so few of you will go on to PhD programs, where you get to make a set of friends. And in this case, it's not like your old college buds. This is a set of professional friends who, if you connect with now, and you are connected with through LinkedIn and any other important social media, these people could be your support system for a lifetime, because all of the friends that you will make after graduate school are going to be the parents of the kids who your kid plays soccer with on the soccer team. They're going to be parents of the kids that your kids go to school with. They're going to be people that might be your next door neighbors, or people in the community, or maybe at your house of worship. But those are different than friends that you make professionally. The kind of person who might end up in your dream company in 15 years that can help you join that same dream company in 15 years. I can't tell you the numbers of stories that students have told me where they made that connection, they stayed connected, and 17 years later, they're now with that classmate that they had here at the Jindal School, working at Amazon or working at Tesla or working at, Google. So, don't be so dismissive to think that that you don't need to do that. I think the other, and I kind of hate to go to this place, but hey, I can go wherever I want at this particular maybe stage of my life. I think that students sometimes today, because we've been through so much through the pandemic, that there is this built-in desire to not take risk, get outside of your comfort zone. You want to kind of stay in your safe space, whether it's your safe personal space or it's your safe academic space or it's your safe, whatever space. I think the young people today, those of you that are enrolled in our degree programs, the people that are going to get outside of their comfort zone are going to be the people that win faster. Now, I am a news junkie. I admit it. I'm seeking help to get over it, but I don't know if it's going to help. I was watching a news, kind of a weekly program that comes on one of the major news networks a few weeks ago. And the commentator was interviewing, I think his name is Steve Galloway. He is a marketing professor at the Stern School of Business at NYU. And he is quite an author, well-sought speaker, and he pontificates about a lot of things, gets paid a lot of money to do that. But anyway, he made a very interesting comment that really, really struck me. He was talking about, this whole impact of the pandemic on the desire of young people to do remote work. And he was saying that young people should absolutely not be doing that they should be the ones that are raising their hand to go back to the office, because mark his words and my words, it is going to be those young people who have networked with those senior leaders who are, by the way, in the office, who are going to be the ones that are going to be party to those impromptu conversations, who are going to be the ones who are get to hear about the problem of the day to solve. They're going to be the ones who've developed that network. Mark my words, it is going to be a much clearer promotion path if you are in the office than if you choose to work remote. And I know that young people, you guys are the ones that are really good with all the technology, who could, do everything on a beach in Costa Rica. But when you are young, you've got the energy, you've got the bandwidth to get, to give more than you're going to have the bandwidth to do in your 40s or 50s or 60s. So if you really want to grow your career and you're really serious, as Scott Galloway said, postpone getting dogs, babies, and houses and get in the office where you can be a part of that, building your reputation as somebody who's going to be there to raise their hand, to take on that sticky problem, to be the one that is in the ear of your senior leader, because you're right there. They don't have to go and click you into a Zoom meeting or click you into a Teams meeting. It is all that spontaneous stuff that happens if you aren't remote. If you are remote, you aren't there to get that. So as much as I think you want to, be sustainable and not burn energy and control the work-life balance situation, which I think is really, really important. When you're young, that's when you got the capacity to do more of it. So I would say to all of you, be bold. Don't just do the easy thing and take that opportunity to, work in your pajama pants. Put on some real pants and some real shoes, not flip-flops, and go to the office and be a part of growing your future. Because mark my words, when you do have lots of dogs, when you do have lots of children, when you do have a house and a spouse or a partner or whatever it is, life gets a lot more complicated. Those things take a lot more energy out of you. You are young when you are young, and you have the most energy when you are young. So get after it. Oh my gosh, I didn't mean to go off on another pontification, but I couldn't help myself. So Angela, Norma, Sonu, what do you think about my second pontification? Do you think it's going to be hard for young people to kind of take that advice?
I'm not that young, so I can't really answer anymore.
Angela, you're considerably younger than I am. You are too, Norma. Sonu, what do you think? I mean, are you hearing students really want, I want to work remote. I want to, have that total control. I mean, what do you hear from young people?
Yes, I do hear that a lot, Dee. Like everyone's like, oh, work from home is really easy. I just don't have to travel, just sit at my own space, be comfortable. But you should always come out of your comfort zone, because that's when you see things, right? If you're in your box, you never know what is happening in the outside world. And with my internship as well, our company made sure that we have to be there at the office 2 days compulsory. That's what they had to make it, because people were so comfortable working at home. But as Dean said, when you go out and be in the office and make connections with people in the company itself, with the senior leaders, you are a young generation, and young generation have to do a lot to become leaders for the future, as that's where we are the future here. So just be very active. I would say even my personal recommendation would be just go out, and if you are given an opportunity to be remote or to be in the office, choose a combo of it. If you don't really want to be in the office, but be there for a while, you like it for sure.
Yeah, I think that's hard. I think it's really difficult because if you look back in my lifetime, of course, we didn't have a pandemic. We knew nothing else except for being in the office. And of course, in the 80s and 90s, in the really early part of my career, there was this concept that was called FaceTime, and it mattered. I mean, you never left the office before your boss left the office. I mean, can you imagine that? Now that's way too far down the line on the wrong side, because we worked ridiculously long hours in the 80s and 90s because FaceTime mattered. Now, I don't want FaceTime to matter like it did then, but I do think that the ones that are present are the ones that people are going to seek solutions from and advice on. And if you're not there, somebody has to click a button to go have that conversation, you're going to miss it. The other thing, recommendation I have is, you should try to, I don't know, have coffee with your senior leaders occasionally. Ask one of them to go to lunch with you every other week. That's where you learn, and that's where you get a lot of that, great wisdom that I talked about at the very beginning of this chat. Again, wisdom is not a product of schooling, but of the lifelong attempt to acquire it. And that means that you're acquiring wisdom in non-traditional ways. So don't really be dismissive of that. Norma, what do you think? I mean, what's your perspective on that balance of having both the more control over your life, but also kind of the work aspect as well? Oh, you're muted, Norma.
Sorry about that. I'm so used to being mute behind the scenes that I got used to that. I completely agree. I know for me especially, I'm kind of mid-career, I think. But, when I was early on in my career, I was in the office all the time because that was the standard. But I know that helped me having the FaceTime, not what we know it as now, but FaceTime, what it was back then. I know that helped me to make stronger connections with my supervisors, to make stronger connections with people who were outside of the department that I worked in. And in a lot of times that helped to open opportunities for me. And so while I do love having a remote day every now and then so that I can spend, my dogs won't be in their kennels so that I maybe can sleep just a little bit longer. I do think it's important to spend that time in the office and make sure that you build those strong connections, because you never know where your next opportunity is going to come from. And so I think it's important to foster those relationships, but I completely agree.
Gosh, Norma, I'm so glad that you said that. So it's not just your own management, it's the relationships that you build across the organization. Because, a lot of people come to graduate school, especially MBA students, they come to graduate school thinking, okay, well, I'm going to focus in on being a finance concentration person. But then they realize that they fall in love with the marketing, and to be able to kind of cross pollinate with people that you work with who are in marketing helps create your next opportunity. So I think that is critically important. So Norma, do we have any questions from attendees that we need to talk about? I mean, as far as the semester is going, there aren't any imminent deadlines. The imminent deadlines that you need to think about, which are more like mid-semester, is when the spring 2023 course schedule goes live and you can actually see it. And that's going to be in late October, very late October.
24th.
October the 24th. And then, of course, shortly after that, you will get your appointment is the time that you can actually start to register. So that means between now and October the 24th, you should be thinking about the jobs, the internships you want, the careers. You should be doing all of that exploratory work about course electives. You can go into Coursebook off of the main UT Dallas website, and you can look at all of the ITS courses or the MIS courses. Just look at them as this long list and read those descriptions. But again, do the legwork in advance. Many of the degree programs at the grad level will have some pre-registration webinars where they will talk about tracks and concentrations and courses. So you just want to be mindful of when those are. Even if you can't attend them live, you will be able to watch them in some kind of recorded fashion as well. But remember, the onus is on you. If you don't do the homework ahead of time, then your academic emergency at the time of registration is going to be more difficult to manage. So be proactive about that. Norma, any questions that we have?
We do have some questions. This first one, I think, ties back a little bit to what Angela was talking about going to your program. I think that might be where it goes, but let me go ahead and read it to you. This person wants to know that there's a conflict with elective courses and core courses in the ITM program. The list provided in an ITM course catalog didn't quite answer his question, and the course present in the core category is also present in the elective category. So as an example, MIS 60 through 37 is considered a core class, but also elective. So I guess they want some clarification surrounding that.
Oh, that's a great question. And I would encourage you, that is the absolute perfect question to go to Mark Thewin. Just pop Mark Thewin an email and just say it, in few sentences. I noticed at this site that there seems to be a course that's listed in both places. Can you clarify that for me? So that would be a great question to ask Mark Thewin or Donna Nix if you are an ITM student, or if you're in any other area and you find that to be. Now, in the catalog, guys, you will notice at the end of each course in the catalog, there are these little symbols that will tell you whether something's offered twice a year or once a year or whenever. Those tend to hold true, but not always. So again, you need to be mindful of the schedule when it comes out to see if, oh my gosh, that elective I thought was only offered once a year is going to be offered again next semester. And of course, you can also get that information in those webinars that your program director will hold as well.
Our next question is about internships. This person says that they want to know if the credits that are given to the summer internship, if that will also count towards their degree. And I was hoping maybe you could answer if the internship hours will count towards the degree, but also talk about what students typically do with their internship credit hours. Do they do 1 credit hour? Do they do all 3 in one summer, or how that might work?
Well, that is a great and complicated question, but let me take a stab and then Angela, jump in. Okay. If you can add some more, which I'm sure you can. So generally, if students have followed our advice, they have done a lot of pre-planning and they have started very early in their internship search, and they've developed a strong network, and they've looked at a lot of opportunities and they've applied for a lot of internships. The wise, proactive student will take 3 semesters of internship where they're doing 1 credit hour each. Now, if you are in a degree program that requires the internship, you can take the first internship class for 0 credit, meaning you pay no tuition for it, if it is required by the degree. So that means that, you know, you want to spread those hours out. Now, if you're at the end of your program, you didn't take our advice, and you have one shot at an internship as you're going to be your graduating semester, then you probably are going to want to take it for 3 credit hours. But great majority of our students will do a 0, 1, 2, because you can use 3 credit hours of internship. So they might do 0 on the first one if it's required by the degree, 1 credit hour on the second one, and then 2 credit hours on the last one. And you probably want to do that if you do it over 3 semesters, so you don't have this funky credit hanging out there where you got to go and try and find an independent study or something. But that's typically what students do. But that's only if you plan early. If you wait until the end, then you're probably doing 1 internship for 3 credit hours.
Yeah, and 0 does not count towards credits. It counts towards the requirement if you're, as Dean Powell said, if your program requires an internship. But it doesn't matter what semester you take the credit hours in, they count towards your degree. An internship is an elective. Sometimes a required elective, but it's an elective, so it does count.
And you can graduate with more hours. We've had a number of students who decided to do the first internship for 0, and you know, and then they
do all 3.
And do all 3, and then we've had students who've actually taken additional electives because they just really felt like, for what I want to do, I really needed to add that extra class. Now, of course, that's more expensive. You're going to have to pay the tuition for that, but sometimes students really value that. And
if you're on an visa, you can't just take classes to take classes. They do have to count for your degree, and if you are at the end in your graduating semester, you can take additional courses. You can't. You cannot just take classes to not graduate.
You can't extend yourself. If you've completed the degree requirements,
you have to graduate.
We have to graduate you because the federal government requires that with regard to your immigration status.
But definitely take an extra class your graduating semester. If your GPA is good and you feel comfortable, that's fine.
Well, those were all the questions that we have submitted right now.
All right.
Wow,
Norma,
that's
can I
terrific.
actually? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Angela. Give us some more wisdom.
No, just a reminder. So registration has ended. So we are not doing any more adding or swapping classes for the full 16-week semester. The only thing that we could enroll students in now are second 8-week classes. The majority of those classes are going to be internship. But just remember that the second 8-week registration deadline for regular registration is October 13th. And for late registration is October 24th. Again, that is only for second 8-week classes that begin in October. And then the drop deadline to drop a class for the semester is November 8th. Just want to remind you guys of those deadlines so you are aware.
So don't ask on November the 9th and say,
No.
I need to drop this class because I'm failing it. It will be denied.
Yeah.
So drop those classes before that deadline date is really important. And, you know, Angela, I don't know why this sparked an important notice for the students in my mind, but all of you have opportunities to fill out course evaluations. Students less and less are taking advantage of doing that. I think partly because it comes as an electronic link, and maybe it's coming at a time where you're exhausted and you're getting near the end of the semester and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to do one more thing. Those are critically important for us. It gives critical feedback to your academic area on the course, how the course is organized, how prepared the instructor was. So please do us a favor and fill that out. And also the exit survey is important because you need to fill it out to go through the process of being approved for graduation. So that is also very important. And I would just remind students that, you're in the glory phase of your life. You can't go back and redo this time in your life. So don't sacrifice, something because you think you don't have time for it. You're only going to be young once. You're going to have the most energy when you're at this age. Live life to its fullest. I think I said in a recent webinar that we did for somebody that, you know, when you're in your 20s, you tend to think that this is sort of a little bit like a dress rehearsal and you're going to really be living your life later. Well, you're living your life now. So live your life. You know, if that opportunity to go and meet an alum for coffee happens on the night that you're getting prepared to study for an exam, study earlier. You don't want to miss out on those opportunities because you don't really get a second chance to do those things. So here's your homework. Oh, Norma, before we get to homework.
So this is actually related to what you're talking about. Speaking of being in your 20s, one person here that's attending the chat asked a great question that we've never been asked before, and I think it would be great to get your perspective. It says, Dr. Powell, what are the 3 things that you think you should have done in your 20s to be more successful in your career?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. So thank you to whomever is watching that has asked that question. So what are the 3 things that I didn't do that I wish I had done? Is that right, Norma?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so wow, I'm going to be 100% transparent here. And maybe I might surprise people with some of the answers. I wish I had taken more time to enhance my quantitative, technical, and statistical tools. I didn't like math. I didn't like logical reasoning. It was not something that came easy to me. And I wish I had acquired the ability to manage data earlier, to do statistics on data, to understand how data is important in giving you the information to make better decisions. So things that were difficult, I wouldn't push myself to learn those when I was in my 20s. Now, later when I got a PhD in my early 40s, I had to take a ton of statistics classes. And I have to tell you, I use that in what I do every day in my role here for the last 16 years. I wish I had learned that earlier because I could have gotten to where I am sooner. And so I think that that's one thing that I would have done. In my 20s, I think I would have spent a lot more time talking to my elders. I didn't value, I didn't think that they had a lot to offer me. And it wasn't until many of them were gone that I realized that missed opportunities. So I would have spent a lot more time talking to my grandparents, hearing the stories of their youth and their early 20s and 30s years raising kids. I would have talked more to my dad and learned more about that really incredible global career that he had and why he was sent to Australia and why he was sent to New Zealand and why in the devil did we move and live a chunk of my life in Iran in the Middle East. And I would have loved to have known the story behind the story, and I didn't do that. I think the third thing, which I don't think is going to surprise anybody in this who's watching, is I would have shut up. I would have closed my mouth. I would have been not so eager to contribute, and I would have listened first and spoke second. I think that when you're young, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are watching this, you know, when you're young, you got something to prove. You know, when a topic comes up, you have an idea, you want to jump in there, you want to build some credibility, you want to be the one who has that great idea. I was like that. I think what I would have done is I would have sat back and I would have closed my mouth and I would have listened first, because I think that that would have made what I said smarter. I think I would have been more informed. And I also think that I would have been giving respect to those people that had something to contribute to me. And so, you know, take that for what it is. Those are probably 3 things. I could probably come up with 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to give you a bonus number 4. Because, you know, I always like a bonus. When I was growing up and graduated from high school in 1978, yes, that was a very long time ago, girls in that time frame did not do any exercise. It was not a feminine thing to do to ever sweat. We were not we were not encouraged to go into sports or to think about fitness and health the way that like my grown daughters are, my grown son, with families of their own. And so in the last, few years, I've had to learn to get healthy and to be physically fit and to learn to sweat. So I guess if I could go back to my 20s, I would learn to have exercised regularly every day, because I think that how healthy you are is what helps you get to be old and gives you an opportunity to have young people ask you questions like these great questions you have asked, so you're around to answer them. So I gave you 3 plus a bonus.
Bonus is always good. We have another question. Earlier, Dr. Powell, you mentioned how you would recommend talking to people around the office and asking senior leaders to get coffee or something like that to kind of develop those relationships. This person was wondering what you suggest in terms of how you initially make that contact, because this person knows that many times those senior leaders are busy. So how do you stand out, and what is your suggestion on making that initial contact and being able to successfully have that meeting?
Wow, that is a great question, and I have an answer for it. So people that are very successful in business have rightfully earned an ego. Rightfully earned an ego. Now, it's different to rightfully own an ego and be egotistical. So I'm not talking about egotistical. I'm talking about people who have a career record of being very successful at what they do. And I will tell you that I try to serve as a mentor in the graduate management industry to young people who are getting into this business. And every single time that a young person who's getting into graduate management education at Tufts University or the University of Illinois or Urbana-Champaign or UT Austin, if they contact me because they've heard me speak on the circuit at a conference and they are seeking my advice, I consider that an incredible compliment. So for that senior leader in your organization, really study why they are so successful at what they do. If you see that they have made a decision that has really been formidable for that product or service that you're a part of, you're on that team for, just stop them in the hall and say, can you take just a few minutes to share with me how you came to that decision? Because number one, I stand in awe of what we accomplished because of your decision. And I want to know more about it. I want to know, what questions did you ask? What data did you look at? What did you base that on? And when you are asking somebody those kinds of questions because they've earned that right to have that ego, I don't know of anybody that isn't going to take time to want to answer that question for you. You're offering them a compliment, number one, that feeds the ego. And number two, you're asking them something that is going to really give you great information. Because I think it's process that we sometimes can't learn in a book. It's how did you get from A to Z? You can read about the steps, but you can't read about the thinking about the steps. So that's what people that are older and wiser than you are can give you great value and understanding. So just ask them a question. And when they answer the question, always thank them and say, wow, thank you for answering that question. I know you're really busy and you've got a huge schedule, but do you think that maybe down the road after I've been here a little while, that I can come by and bring you a cup of coffee and we can chat again, because I learned a lot from you. There is never a time, regardless of how busy my schedule is, that I don't make time for somebody that has that approach. So Norma, that's my advice on how you do it.
That is perfect. Thank you. Those are all the questions that we have. So it looks like we have some time for some closing remarks before we wrap up.
Well, first of all, I want to thank all of the students who have joined us today to hear the graduate dean pontificate on whatever the topic of the day is, which I think is honing in on wisdom and the value of wisdom. But I wish all of you a terrific semester. Life is what you make of it. And so, make something of it, get busy. Don't be so you know, nervous about mistakes that you're going to make. We all make mistakes. We all have that happen in our lives. It's what we learn from the mistakes that matters. It isn't the making of the mistake that's the problem. So get out there, take some risk, make it a great semester, and come back to a future chat with the graduate dean and tell me what you learned and share with me your experiences, because everybody benefits from each other's wisdom. And I hope I've inspired you to call up that older person in your life, that older person that might be at a previous job or in your family or a neighbor, somebody in your community, and give them the respect of their lifetime and learn something really precious from them. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Angela and Sonu, for being here, adding some great wisdom to the conversation. Norma, for making all the magic behind the scenes and getting it out there. And to all the students who take time to come and spend this hour with me. Thank you for being here. We look forward to seeing you in the next chat with the graduate dean in October. Thanks, guys.